and Homeland Security were there. They were not fed for 12 hours. They tried to continuously make him sign things. Unfortunately, he did not. And nobody could tell where he was. But then they took him to Santa Ana, where finally he could contact his relatives and get some legal representation. And then finally he was sent to Adelanto. We then went to visit the Adelanto facility itself. We saw the kitchen, the medical facilities, and the cells. And it was there in the cells that we had a discussion with those that were being detained right in the cells, who said that they did not have a change of clothes for 10 days, not a change of underwear, and they had the same towel that they had to wash over and over again, and that they couldn't call out because they didn't have a PIN number. And they showed us um, all the forms that they had filled out over and over again to try to get a PIN number. I would say that GEO uh, has to clearly improve its treatment of these detainees, which at this point are about 1,200. And GEO makes $1 billion from its private prison business. It actually makes the most out of any private prison company in the United States. And also, I might add, it donated $1 million to the Trump campaign. So we know what this is all about. And one thing's for sure, these detainees need to be treated with more humane conditions. And also, we asked about whether these detainees were being taken to other states, and ICE would not answer this question. They said, we don't know, you have to talk to somebody else. So now I'd like to turn it over to Congressmember Linda Sánchez.
Thank you, Judy, and thank you for your leadership in organizing this oversight trip to Adelanto. Obviously, President Trump has put out a big show of force on the streets in LA because he thinks it makes him look tough. And today we were granted access to tour the Adelanto facility, which just a few years ago had conditions so deplorable that the federal courts essentially shut them down. We were able to tour the facility. We were able to speak with a couple of the detainees, but it's clear that there remain huge issues and problems with people's fundamental rights not being respected. The enforcement actions that are happening, the raids that are happening through LA are very indiscriminate. They are not targeting criminals. Most of what they are targeting is hardworking immigrants at their place of business. Just today, I found out that in my district in the city of Pico Rivera, more raids were being conducted. And it's cruel and it's inhumane. The fact that once people are arrested, they're not able to talk to their families, they're not able to call their attorneys. As Judy mentioned, one of the detainees, they were taken into custody in the morning and they were not fed until 9 p.m. that evening. No phone calls, no communication with the outside world. It's clear that these raids tear apart our communities. It's clear that these raids increase fear and suspicion among our communities. And the immigrant labor workforce in this country is what makes America run. So we have to hold the administration accountable for the fact that detainees have to wear the same clothes, including underwear and socks, for 10 days without getting clean clothing. That's disgusting. How many of us would want to be in that situation? I don't think anybody would. This administration has overreached at every turn, and it is incumbent upon the people to stand up and speak out and say, we will not tolerate this going on in our communities. So I'm pleased that we were 5 members here, 5 members strong, who stand up for immigrant rights, who stand up for fundamental constitutional rights and due process rights. And we will continue to press for answers, because we don't get clear answers about why people that are taken off the streets of Los Angeles are transferred to other facilities far away from their home, far away from their attorneys. But we will continue to press, we will continue to ask the hard questions, and we will continue to put pressure on this administration to stop these awful, awful raids from happening. And with that, I'm pleased to turn over to a colleague of mine who I'm proud to serve with in Congress, Congressman Mark Takano.
Thank you. Thank you, woman. Thank you, Congresswoman Judy Chu, for bringing us together and leading this oversight trip. Congresswoman Linda Sánchez. I just want to say that Congresswoman Luz Rivas and I interviewed an asylee, somebody who was here legally under our asylum laws, was following the legal obligation of an asylum seeker to report to court. This person was on his third appearance following his legal duty, and the immigration judge summarily dismissed the case without his ability to make his case known, and then he was arrested by ICE along with his wife, who was also an asylee. This to me is bad faith enforcement of our immigration laws. To actually have people who are reporting to court as they are required to by law, and then judges, without any reason, just sort of dismissing their cases. I believe that this is a source of social unrest where we're treating people unfairly. People are here legally. They get made criminals if they don't show up and they don't follow the law. So they're in a very hard place. I am sure my colleague will say more about this. It was heartbreaking to hear the story about why this individual left his country. I'm not clear that even his story will meet our requirements, but he should at least have the ability to have his story heard and his case fairly tried by an immigration lawyer. The most recent experience was, as Congressman Chu mentioned, encountering people, eight men in their pod in their cell. They were there because it was because they were doing a count. But I spoke to somebody who was a DACA recipient who was apprehended on U.S. territorial soil. Um, well, look, I won't get into the particulars, but it was then that we realized that the men in that cell had not had a change of clothes in 10 days. They voluntarily cleaned their own showers. I will say that ICE does not require them to do that, but when I toured the showers, they were not very clean. I got to tell you that much. And their use of the phones is limited by the fact that they're not able to get the PIN numbers that they need to use those phones. So, as Congressman Chu said, this is a $1 billion industry. They can get a change of clothes, more humane conditions for the detainees. I guess I turn this over to Luz? Sydney Kamlager-Dove, my colleague Sydney Kamlager-Dove.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Congresswoman Judy Chu, for pulling this oversight visit together. I'm here with my 5 colleagues, including Congresswoman Linda Sánchez and Congresswoman Luz Rivas, conducting an oversight visit. My name is Sydney Kamlager-Dove. I'm the Congresswoman for the 37th Congressional District. We should be here talking to you about the $880 billion cut to Medicaid, the closures of Social Security Administration offices. But instead, we are talking about these indiscriminate and illegitimate ICE raids that have been happening across our community. I came here today to find my constituents. I have a constituent who is deaf and mute. He was picked up by ICE and transported, and we are still looking for him. We had a list of constituents that we are trying to check on. We were conducting oversight, and we were also conducting casework. And let me tell you, we have had laundromats, we have had churches, we have had elementary schools, we have had small stores raided by FBI, Homeland Security, in cooperation with ICE, snatching folks, not asking them for identification, not providing identification or judicial warrants themselves. We talked to the agents in the detention facility, and we did not get concrete information about how folks were lawfully being detained, if they did have criminal records or not. Some of that is still being decided while folks are being detained. And something else we learned is that people are being detained and separated and let go by race. Now, I don't know about you, but if this administration said that it was looking for folks with criminal records and they have detained U.S. citizens, legal immigrants, and folks who are legally going through the immigration status process, then tell me why you are also racially profiling folks and then separating them and doing different things to each of these communities. And let me tell you something else. We are decimating the local economy here because most of the folks were students. They were applying for licenses to do work. They have businesses, they have families, they are workers. This is impacting our economy, our regional and state economy. And we have an administration that is interested in manufacturing a violent and traumatizing show called LA Raids to distract us from the larger issues that are impacting everyday Americans, like the cost of living, the cost of food, the cost of healthcare. And now we are dealing with an administration that is racially profiling and detaining folks without giving them the representation that they need. This is why we came out here to conduct oversight, and this is why we are going to continue to hold this administration accountable, because it is illegitimate. You are denying folks their Fourth, their Fifth, and their 14th Amendment rights when you are not giving them due process, when people do not know why they have been picked up other than the color of their skin. And we must demand more from this administration. That is what Congress is trying to do. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Congresswoman Luz Rivas.
Thank you. I'm Congresswoman Luz Rivas. I represent the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles. I joined my colleagues today to conduct this oversight visit. I want to thank Congresswoman Judy Chu for leading this. I know this is her second time within a week coming to Adelanto. It shouldn't take multiple visits of members of Congress for us to be able to enter a facility to do what is our duty, to conduct oversight and look for how immigrants are being treated when they're detained, which all of us care about the conditions. Like Congress member Mark Takano mentioned, we met with a man that was here. It's an asylum case. He left his country of origin a year and a half ago. He has no criminal record in his country of origin, nor here in the United States. He went to his third appointment at a courthouse in Santa Ana, went in, he brought all the documentation that he was asked for, and he went into the courtroom, and the judge dismissed the case right away without even listening to this man and his wife. And they were told to immediately leave the courtroom. And when he did, he was arrested by ICE right away. So he was following the law. A lot of people tell me, well, people are breaking the law. They should be detained. They should follow the rules. This man was following the rules by the book, had done nothing wrong, had gone to every other appointment that was assigned to him, had done weekly check-ins with ICE where where they took his photo every week, and was just automatically detained. So now they're dismissing the case. They're not even following the law and the rules. And so our communities are living in fear. They're doing it to anyone, not just those that are here undocumented. We mentioned the young man that we met that was a college student that was a DACA recipient. He's been here all his life. His English was perfect. He's been here his whole life and was just detained recently. So it's sad that all of this chaos is putting our communities in fear. I have constituents in the San Fernando Valley that have been detained, and they're being sent off to Texas, to Tacoma, Washington, so that families can't visit them, so that their attorneys are not nearby. We met in the cells today. We met people that were detained in Miami and are here. And so they have no access to their family or to their local attorneys. They're doing this on purpose. It's very clear to me. The ICE and the GEO officials told us that it just depends where there's room. They could come from anywhere across the country. But to me, it's obvious that this is all done intentionally. If they're picking up someone here, they're sending them out of state so that they will not have representation or access to their families. And the Miami men that we met today, they have no access to pins to use the telephones. So not even a phone call. This is inhumane, unjust, and that's why we're here as members of Congress, because we have access to these facilities and we want to bring to light what is actually happening in there and how immigrants, that a lot of them following the law, are being treated by this administration. And we will continue to conduct our oversight as long as, I think for me, as long as I'm in Congress, right? So thank you, and I will hand it back to Congressmember Judy Chu.
We have a group that has worked on the issue of Adelanto for many, many years, the Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice. And so I'd like to bring up Hector, who will bring up families who've been detained, who've had people detained at Adelanto.
Thank you, Congresswoman Chu. My name is Hector, here on behalf of the Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice, the leading immigrant rights organization in the Inland Empire. And I'd like to especially thank Congresswoman Judy Chu, Luz Rivas, Kamlager-Dove, Linda Sánchez, and Mark Takano for making their way out here to Adelanto to visit the Adelanto ICE Processing Center, one of the largest detention centers on the West Coast with one of the most egregious histories of human rights violation. A special thank you to Congresswoman Judy Chu, who's been fighting with us for a little over a decade now to get this facility shut down, because we always knew that this facility would be an instrument to subject immigrants and their families to the most inhumane conditions, trauma, and chaos. To start out, we'd like to invite some of the family members of those who have been detained in the ongoing raids happening even to this day in the counties of Los Angeles, Orange, San Bernardino, and Oversight. We'd like to start with Yurin Contreras, who is a family member of someone who was detained in the Abiance Apparel Warehouse in downtown Los Angeles.
Hello, my name is Yurian, daughter of Mario, who was one of the dozens of workers kidnapped by ICE. I am here today on behalf of my father and the dozens of indigenous workers who should be released to their families. My siblings ranging from 4 months to 20 years, and I need our father, especially my 4-year-old brother, who has a disability and asked us about his dad. What happened that day was a very traumatic experience, watching my father be taken away and chained by the hands, feet, and waist, unable to do anything. It was a very traumatic experience that affected us emotionally and mentally. But little did we know it was only the beginning of the inhumane treatment our families would endure under the custody of ICE and law enforcement. On June 6th, once our families were kidnapped and kept at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles, they were told that they would be transferred to Santa Ana Center, only to be held hostage in a van from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. with no access to water, food, or a restroom, handcuffed, creating bruises on their wrists. They were not able to shower, brush their teeth, or have access to proper hygiene for over 4 days. Since their arrival at Adelanto, officials have attempted to force them to sign documents without due process or legal representation, treating them like even worse conditions inside the facility, where the water already tastes like Clorox, the food is unsustainable, and the medical care is less than minimal. Help our communities during this moment of need. Please, people shouldn't go to work fearing for their safety. Families belong together. Hola, me llamo Yurien, hija de Mario, uno de los muchos trabajadores secuestrados por ICE. Estoy aquí hoy en nombre de mi padre y las docenas de trabajadores indígenas que deberían ser liberados a sus familias. Mis hermanos entre 4 meses y 20 años de edad y yo necesitamos a nuestro padre, especialmente mi hermano de 4 años que tiene una discapacidad y nos pregunta por su padre. Lo que ocurrió ese día fue una experiencia muy traumática. Ver cómo se llevaban a mi padre y encadenados de manos, pies y cinturas, sin poder hacer nada. Fue una experiencia muy traumática que nos afectó emocionalmente y físicamente, pero no sabíamos que era solo el comienzo del trato inhumano que nuestras familias sufren bajo la custodia de ICE y las fuerzas del orden. El 6 de junio, tras el secuestro y la reclusión de nuestras familias en el Centro de Detención Metropolitano en Los Ángeles, se les informó que serán trasladados al Centro de Santa Ana, donde permanecieron como rehenes en una camioneta desde las 11 p.m. hasta las 7 a.m., sin acceso a agua, comida ni al baño, esposados, lo que les causó moretones en las muñecas. No pudieron bañarse, cepillarse los dientes, ni tener acceso a un higiene adecuadamente durante más de 4 días. Desde su llegada a Adelanto, los funcionarios han intentado obligarlos a firmar documentos sin el debido proceso ni representación legal, amenazándolos con condiciones aún peores dentro de las instalaciones donde la agua sabe a cloro, la comida no es sostenible y la atención médica es menos de lo mínimo. Apoya a nuestras comunidades en este momento de necesidad. Las personas no deberían ir a trabajar temiendo por su seguridad. Las familias deben estar unidas. Gracias.
Gracias. One more person from a family member of someone detained in the Ambiance warehouse in Los Angeles, Carlos Anastasio.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Anastasio. I stand here today because on June 6th, around 10 a.m., I received a message from my father informing me that ICE was at his job. Since that moment, my life hasn't been the same because my father was kidnapped. He has been an important part of my life, teaching me the importance of community, family, and empathy. My father leaves behind a family who he cared for. I've seen my father wake up at the crack of dawn and not return until the evening after a long day of work, only looking forward to seeing his family. I miss my father, and so do my siblings. This separation has been agonizing, and it saddens me to know that this sentiment is shared across 13 other Zapotec indigenous people from my community. Indigenous communities for whom Spanish is their second language are unable to access legal support in their language, and due process is being violated by ICE and federal law enforcement. Last week, as I and other families were trying to locate and contact our loved ones after days of not knowing whether they were alive or dead, we learned that attorneys and local congressmen were being turned away from also visiting our families. We are hearing from lawyers on the ground that this is the trend across the board. There is chaos in the detention centers. As Zapotec indigenous communities and as families who have lost their family members to ICE massive raids, we call on our elected officials, from LA Mayor Bass to all local and statewide representative officials, to step up, help us defend LA's status as a sanctuary city by prohibiting any collaboration and protection of ICE. In this moment of dire need, we uplift our right to work, to due process, to an attorney, and of course to be with our families. We demand accountability from employers for unlawful workplace raids, and we demand to hold local and state representatives responsible for the increased funding for ICE enforcement. And in Spanish, hola a todos, me llamo Carlos Anastasio. Estoy aquí porque el 6 de junio, alrededor de las 10 de la mañana, recibí un mensaje de mi padre informándome que ICE estaba en su trabajo. Desde el secuestro de mi padre, mi vida no ha sido igual. Él ha sido una parte importante de mi vida, enseñándome la importancia de la comunidad, la familia y la empatía. Mi padre ha dejado a su familia atrás, al que amaba y cuidaba. He visto a mi padre despertar al amanecer y no regresar hasta la noche después de un largo día de trabajo, con ganas de ver a su familia. Yo extraño a mi padre y mis hermanos también. Esta separación ha sido una pesadilla. Lo que más me entristece es saber que este sentimiento lo comparten 13 otras familias de mi comunidad indígena zapoteca. Las comunidades indígenas, para quienes el español es su segunda lengua, no pueden acceder a asistencia legal en su idioma debido a que ICE y las fuerzas del orden federales están violando el debido proceso. La semana pasada, mientras yo y otras familias intentábamos localizar a nuestros seres queridos, tras días de no saber nada, nos enteramos que abogados y congresistas locales se les negó la posibilidad de ver a nuestras familias. Escuchamos a los abogados locales decir que esa es la tendencia generalizada y hay caos dentro de estos centros de detención. Como comunidad zapoteca indígena y como familias que han perdido a sus familiares en estas masivas redas de ICE, hemos así hecho un llamado a representantes elegidos, el alcalde de Los Ángeles Bass, hasta todos los representantes locales y estatales, para que den un paso al frente y defiendan el estatus de Los Ángeles como ciudad santuario, prohibiendo cualquier colaboración y protección de ICE por parte de nuestras fuerzas del orden local. En este momento hay extrema ansiedad y necesitamos que defiendan el derecho al trabajo, debido proceso, un abogado y estar con nuestras familias. Exigimos que los empleadores rindan cuentas por las regadas ilegales de sus lugares de trabajo y exigimos que los representantes locales y estatales se responsabilicen por el aumento de la financiación para la aplicación de la ley por parte de ICE. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. And next, as a reminder that the raids and the terror that is being raided on immigrant communities is not only happening in Los Angeles. We have someone here who is a family member of someone who was detained in Orange County, a car wash worker. So I'd like to invite Lucero Garcia.
Hi everyone, my name is Lucero Garcia, and I'm here today to speak on behalf of my uncle Candido Ortiz y Sordia, who was detained last week on June 9. He left to work just like any other day and never returned home. He was arrested by ICE without any reason or a warrant. My uncle has been in this country for the past 25 years or plus. It has worked ever since. He's a responsible individual that has contributed to the economy in paying taxes and never been in any type of government assistance. I can assure you guys that he's not a threat to the country or to the community or anyone around him. He's not a criminal, nor has a misconduct or criminal record. He's a well-respected man with a big heart who does not deserve any of this. His absence has created a noticeable gap in our family and hardship for those family members that rely on him in Mexico. For example, his son that has been ill for more than a year now. My uncle is the main provider for his medical care and treatments. Detaining him has caused deep distress and has torn our family apart, leaving us with fear of never seeing him again or having him back home. My children are very saddened by this, also fearing of him being deported back to a country he hasn't been in decades. Please take into consideration and help me fight for my uncle's freedom and possibility of being here legally. I ask of anybody and everybody that's going through the same thing as we are that you're not alone. Stand up, speak for your family, for your loved one that is detained here. Together, we're strong. Together, we can make the difference. We can make a change. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucero. Thank you for that powerful testimony. Joined with the Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice are many community advocates that came out here today to support the Congress members in their visits. I'd like to start with Javier Hernandez, Executive Director of the Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice. Hello, everyone. Javier Hernandez, Executive Director at the Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice. We have been at the forefront, even before this center opened, already fighting for it to number one, so that it wouldn't open. Number two, once it opened, now we've seen 8 deaths. We've seen that deplorable conditions that folks are held in. We have said it and we will continue to say it. Adelanto needs to shut down. Shut down. Adelanto. Shut down. Adelanto. That's right. The inhumane practice of profiting off the detention of immigrants is something that should horrify all of us. We will continue to fight for this center to close. Not just this one. We know that GEO has multiple centers throughout the United States. We also know that there's other for-profit detention centers that, again, they worry more about profits. They worry more about the stakeholders than they actually worry about the folks that are inside that are detained. We want to extend our arms to all of those people that have been affected by these raids, as folks that spoke today, folks that don't have anyone inside that's able to speak for them. We have a lot of stories of folks that are here. They come fleeing their countries. They come seeking asylum. They come for a better life, and this is how they're welcome. They're welcomed by being detained in a place that treats them in terrible conditions. I want to thank all the Congress members that have been with us fighting this fight, and more importantly, Congressmember Judy Chu, who was the first to visit this facility, I believe, in 2015, maybe 2014. 2014, 2015. Thank you so much, Congressmember, for your fight. And we will continue this fight alongside you. And thank you to all the members of Congress that made it out today. Thank you. Accompanied also are lawyers and legal advocates on behalf of the ACLU and immigrant defenders. I would like to welcome Eva Britan on behalf of the ACLU and Jennifer Norris on behalf of immigrant defenders.
Thank you so much, Hector. Thank you so much to our members of Congress, Eva Bitran, EVABITRAN, ACLU of Southern California.
Jennifer Norris with the Immigrant Defenders Law Center in Southern California.
I'd like to just briefly highlight 2 areas for which we're thankful for our members of Congress. The first is for highlighting the illegality and absolutely indiscriminate nature of these enforcement operations that are designed to terrorize communities, designed to be based on racial profiling, designed to tear families apart, and in a way designed to break the law. All of us will be watching and holding people accountable. The second point, I'm so thankful that they uplifted the extraordinarily bad conditions inside the detention facility. We know that almost everybody in here is someone without a criminal or immigration record prior to this moment. But even if they had a criminal record, even if they had served their time in criminal custody and then been brought to the ICE facility, nobody deserves 10 days in the same underwear. Nobody deserves dirty showers. Nobody deserves moldy food. We are thankful to our Congress members for watching, and we are watching as well.
And we just want to highlight the deplorable conditions that mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters are being held in behind us right now, torn apart from our communities.
And actually, there was a person who was parked only a few feet away from us who could clearly hear and read the signs, and yet they ignored it.
I just want to add one thing, and that is that we were allowed to enter the facility. We were allowed a tour of the facility. But I'll tell you, they were very nervous about us talking to the detainees. And they made sure that we had very little time to hear their stories about how they were apprehended and how they were processed. Almost every single question that we asked about processing went unanswered. They said they didn't know, they couldn't answer that. And when you think about the fact that they make billions of dollars in this private prison system, they're sending people that they pick up off the streets of LA to Louisiana, to Texas, to Tacoma, Washington. That's not inexpensive. And who's footing the bill for that travel that they're sending people away? The US taxpayers are. It's not the most efficient way to run a system where you're detaining people. It's not accidental. This is purely for profit on their end, and our community suffers on our end. And we will continue, like as I said, to try to conduct oversight, but they make it very, very difficult. I think we were each allowed maybe 15 minutes to talk with one detainee. And while we were touring, we engaged with others. But it really is a sad statement about exactly who is benefiting off of the trauma and the chaos that is being inflicted on the immigrant community.
I think it's fair to say that there wasn't a single person that we interviewed today that needed to be in prison. That's a waste of taxpayer dollars. The person that Luz Rivas and I interviewed initially was obeying the law. He was showing up for all of his appointments. There's no reason to detain a person like that, right? And then finally, to further kind of buttress what my colleague Linda Sánchez is saying, when we finally were able to talk to about 8 individuals who were locked up because they were doing the count, the person count, they were in their quarters, an 8-man room, 8-man quarters. All of them were from Miami. Every single one of them was from Miami. One of them was a DACA person, a young DACA person he had DACA, was picked up while he was on the Virgin Islands on U.S. territory. He wasn't even coming back to the United States from someplace else. That person was not needing to be in a detention facility. It's a lot of profit per person. Thousands of dollars are being spent to keep these people in detention, and the American public is not being kept safer. They're just being made poorer because their tax dollars are being they're being spent unnecessarily.
Yo soy la congresista Luz Rivas, nomás quiero saber si alguien tiene preguntas en español.
Okay.
Gracias.
Okay, well, thank you all so very much. Thank you.
Yo tengo una. Yeah, thank you. Oh, of course. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Thank you for your work.
Of course.
I grew up in San Fernando.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where?
My congressman is Russian. But I grew up, I actually grew up in Reseda, and then I moved out to Johnson. So that's not Russia.